Hey everyone, just wanted to let you guys know that the audio for this week's episode is not as good as normal. I accidentally deleted the audio file, so the audio is coming from my phone. Um, but despite the audio not being the best, the content is even better than ever, so I hope you guys enjoy.
The Lions still have not won. Ruggs' career might be done. Jamison Henry will need a cast. Mike White had a blast, and the Green Bay Packers are number one. Welcome to the Mishpo. All right, everybody, welcome into the Mishpo. Crazy news going around the NFL right now, and I am recording this before the trade deadline has passed. So there could be some crazy trades that happen in the NFL that I'm not aware of at the moment. And so just all of that going in, we'll just see how it goes. So we've got ourselves a beer here. I've been saving this one until November because it's called November Gale. It's an American Pale Ale, an APA, for those of you who are classy. But let's get into it. Oh shit, almost drank it right from the can. Alrighty, quick thing of business. There will be no episode next week as I will be on my honeymoon, and I'm sure Bree would be kind of upset if I took some time out of that trip to do this Mishpo thing. So I will not have an episode next week. There will still be a survey for the weekly matchup thing. No transactions within the last week. Let's get into the game recaps. First up, we've got me versus Caleb. I felt pretty good going to this matchup. And then towards the beginning, it seemed actually like it might be kind of close. Ended up not being very close. Caleb would have needed a crazy amount of points from his kicker on Monday night. Probably the most amount of points scored by a kicker in all of fantasy football history. However, obviously that did not happen. I ended up beating Caleb 140.8 to 90. Almost got the highest score on the week, but no, I did not. And 75% of people got that matchup correct. Moving us on to Fiala versus Adam. This probably was a much closer matchup than anybody thought it would be. A difference of about 3 points. So pretty close, but Fiala was able to pull away with the victory here in the end with 107.7 to Adam's 104.22, and 75% of people also got that one correct. Moving us on to Lincoln versus Brian. The biggest blowout of the week. Lincoln is just continuing his hot streak. I believe it's now 6 wins in a row for you, Lincoln. Got a decent win here, 133.94 to 81.56, and another 100% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to Derek versus State Farm. Pretty good bounce back performance here from Derek after he had a pretty abysmal performance last week. He got some guys back from bye, which obviously helped. Derek got the win, 127.52 to 77.66, and 50% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to the most anticipated matchup of the week, I would say, and the most nail-biting matchup for those involved. Bruce versus Abby. This one came down to Monday Night Football with Tyreek Hill. Bruce needed about, I think it was 20 or something points from, I don't know, 10. He needed some points from Tyreek Hill, and he got them. Bruce, he got the win, 146.66 to 131.36. So our highest scoring matchup, and Bruce was the highest scoring team on the week, defeating Abby, stopping her train of destruction, and 38% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to T-Corn versus Sam, another matchup that was probably surprisingly close. T-Corn here got the win, 113.12 to 103.54, and another 100% of people got that one correct. Moving us on to the final matchup of the week, we've got Michael versus Colin. This one was not very close at all. Difference of about 40 points. So the mighty fell in this one with Michael losing 131 to 93.66, and only 25% of people got that one correct. And I happen to be one of them. I went 6-1 on the week, my best record for the week so far, 34-22 on the season. For the week, Bruce and I led all people who took the survey with 7 points. State Farm still the point leader with 45, and I'm, for reference, second place with 35. And then State obviously still has the best average with 5.6. So that was last week's recap. Alrighty, moving us on to the power rankings, number 14, same place as you were last week. Adam, 2-6 on the week, or on the season. You've got a couple losses piling up lately. Lost to Fiala, although it was very close, so you could have taken down one of the better teams in the league, had you have won. But obviously that did not happen. See if you can bounce back next week against a team that is struggling as well. Speaking of, number 13, we've got Brian, also staying in the same spot as he was last week, also 2-6. You lost to Lincoln, and this one was not close, unlike Adam's matchup. Got some injuries, some bye week, maybe situations coming up. I'm not really sure. We'll jump into that later, but much like Adam, you're going up against an opponent that is struggling, so you can maybe get a win. Moving on to number 12, the bottom 3 did not change. We've got Sam, who was number 12 last week, lost to T-Corn, and that matchup was actually decently close. So you could have made a big splash in the fantasy league if you would have scored about 10 more points, which is not much. Also considering you didn't have a quarterback because Dak did not play, and T-Corn actually snagged Cooper Rush, which may have been something that I suggested he do, but that's neither here nor there. Next week, Sam, you're going up against a team that's doing pretty good, at least within the last week. So we'll see if you can get things turned around for yourself. So that's Sam at 12. Number 11, we've got State Farm. You've got 4 straight losses, dropping from number 9 last week to number 11 this week. Lost to Derek in a matchup when you had some issues. Obviously, Devontae Adams did not play, and I believe you had some other injury and bye week issues on your team. We'll see if you can bounce back this upcoming week. Is not one of the better teams to face in terms of teams that you could beat, although he is missing one of his best, if not the best running back in the league. I guess we'll see who that is in a bit, but yeah, that's State Farm at 11. Number 10, just mentioned, Derek, 3-5 on the season. You got a win this past week. You moved up 1 spot from beating State Farm, and if you can keep this going, you could get another win upcoming this week, so we'll see if you can keep things rolling. So that's Derek at 10. Number 9, we've got Michael, 4-4, 2 straight losses. I remember there was a day you were number 1 of the power rankings, and look where you are now. You lost to Colin, as I mentioned before, and that one was not very close. You kind of got smashed there. We'll see if you can turn things around this upcoming week, but I wouldn't be too hopeful. So that's Michael at number 9. Number 8, we've got the aforementioned Colin. Pretty solid victory last week against the aforementioned Michael. Climbed 2 spots from number 10 last week, but you do have a pretty decent, if not the most decent opponent this upcoming week, so we'll see if you can get yourself another victory and move 1 game under 500. Moving us on to number 7, we've got Caleb. After you were also number 1 at one point, but you are on a 2-loss streak after I beat you last week. Derrick Henry going down obviously does not help, but even if you would have put up a Derrick Henry-like game, I still probably would have beat you. We'll see if you can turn things around, though, this upcoming week, in an opponent that you might be able to get a victory against. We'll see. It could be a pretty close one, but it all depends on the matchup. So that's 7 with Caleb. Number 6, I've got myself 4-4 on a 2-game win streak at 500, so that's pretty cool. Climbed 1 spot from 7 last week after I defeated Caleb. That felt pretty good. I do have another tough opponent coming up, but he might have some issues with some players not playing this upcoming week. So I am hopeful, and that is me at number 6. Number 5, we've got Fiala, 5-3 on the season on a 2-game win streak. You did drop, however, 1 spot to number 4, or from number 4. You beat Adam, but it was a very close matchup, something you could have easily lost should a couple more balls gone a couple different directions. Got yourself a decent opponent this upcoming week, so we'll see if you can put some things together to make it a competitive matchup. So that is number 5 for Fiala. Number 4, we've got Bruce, the highest scoring team on the week. Ended Abby's, what did you say? The survived the Abby train, is putting your own words. Yeah, you're on a 3-game win streak, climbed to 2 spots from number 6 this past week, and going up against an opponent that has historically been pretty good. So we'll see if he can muster up the strength to knock you down a couple pegs. So that is Bruce at number 4. Number 3, we've got Abby. Despite losing to Bruce last week, I still think you've got one of the better teams in the league. I did knock you down 1 spot from number 2 last week. You are probably the most consistent team out there, and you've got the highest points scored on the season, highest points against on the season, because you did face the team that had the highest points on the season. So that's pretty tough. But like I said, still got a solid team. So that's Abby at number 3. Number 2, we've got Lincoln. Has just been going insane lately. 6 straight wins. Climbed up 1 spot from number 3 last week after you pretty handily defeated Brian. But this matchup this next week for you, Lincoln, is gonna be a tough one. It's gonna be one for the ages, I reckon, and we'll see who comes out on top. So that is Lincoln at number 2, and of course number 1, team that's been number 1 for the last 3 weeks or so, T-Corn, 6-1. 6 straight wins, much like Lincoln. You beat Sam last week in, as I mentioned before, pretty close matchup, difference of about 10. Had you not made that move to pick up Cooper Rush, it might be a different story, but you're looking good right now. Your team's looking good. So yeah, that's T-Corn at number 1. And that'll do it for the power rankings for this week. All right, time for the game predictions for week 9 of the 2021 NFL season. First up, we've got me versus Fiala. I've got pretty much the same lineup. I do have Chris Godwin on a bye this week, but I'm going to be filling in Jerry Jeudy unless I get some crazy, unless I make a trade or get some guy off waivers that I like better, but that probably won't happen. However, on the other side of the ball, there's some not issues, but some hurdles you might have to jump, or definitely will have to jump. DeAndre Swift is on a bye, and Terry McLaurin's on a bye. Jamal Williams is on a bye. And then there's Calvin Ridley, who has stepped away from football for who knows how long. So you got a little bit of a ragtag group right now. We'll see if you can get some good waiver ads this upcoming week. Get yourself a decent lineup in here, but I did pick myself for this matchup. I just think that if it was a week where you had all your players, it'd be a much closer one for sure, but I just think I've got it covered. So Joey for the win. Moving us on to Adam versus Brian. There's matchups of powerhouses, and then there's this matchup. Combined 4 wins between the 2 of them. So not super exciting, but someone's got to win, right? Actually, that's not necessarily true. There is a league where it was a tie a couple weeks ago. I was looking at the standings and I saw there was a couple teams that had tied. Anything can happen in fantasy. But on this matchup, yeah, I mean, just looking at it real quick, doesn't seem off the bat too many issues. Brian, you have your kicker and your defense on a bye. And Adam, you currently don't have a tight end because they just keep getting injured. Tunyon, obviously, towards ACL, and Gronk, not only is he injured, but he's also on bye this week. So you will be having to pick one of the tight ends up off the waiver wire this week. I went with Brian in this one. I think he's going to get things turned around here. At the beginning of the season, I thought he had a solid team, and we'll see if he can come out this week and perform like one. So that's Brian and Adam. Moving us on to State Farm versus Caleb. As I mentioned before, Derrick Henry out likely for the fantasy season at least. Maybe even playoffs for the NFL as well. But looking at the rest of your roster over here, Caleb, it seems to be mostly fine. Obviously, like I said, Derrick Henry, you'll probably throw in Tony Pollard. I guess you could throw in Duke Johnson. or is that David Johnson, which is not much better. But on State Farm side of the ball, we've got James Robinson and Kyler Murray questionable. Devontae Adams has got to come off that COVID list, which he is expected to. And then that's pretty much it. You've got a couple empty bench spots. Maybe fill up those with some good players. But yeah, I am going to be picking State Farm here as my upset pick of the week. I just think he gets things turned around and can pull off a victory. Moving us on to Derek versus Sam. Dak Prescott missed this past week, as I'm sure you know far too well, Sam. And then you got Tyler Lockett, finally had a good performance, but he's on bye this week. Obviously, Saquon is still possibly not going to play, as well as Josh Jacobs, and then a couple other guys may not play. And then on Derek's side, everything seems to be all squared up in terms of buys. I mean, you do have a couple of them on buys, but you weren't going to be starting them anyways. With all of that in consideration, I will be picking Derek as my winner for this matchup. Gets a second straight win. So, moving us on to Abby versus Lincoln, probably the most exciting matchup of the week, and is poised to be the highest scoring matchup on the week if things go according to plan. Kind of opposite of what Adam and Brian is. They had combined 4 wins on the season. These two teams have a combined 11 wins on the season, so almost 3 times as much. On Abby's side, everything looks, for the most part, pretty good. You do have Leonard Fournette on a bye, but you got Philip Lindsay on your bench, so it's a pretty decent downgrade, I think. And then you've got Mark Andrews coming off bye, so I'm sure you'd be likely to plug him in your lineup. On Lincoln's side, however, it does seem you're pretty good. DK is on bye, so obviously you can't have him. But other than that, it's pretty much your lineup that you would be setting. I think that Lincoln's going to continue his winning streak here and continue Abby's losing streak, so I will be picking Lincoln for this matchup. Moving us on to Michael versus Bruce. One team had a really good week this past week, and the other team not so much. I'll let you guess who is who, but for this upcoming matchup, Antonio Gibson's on a bye, as well as TJ Hawkinson for Michael, and then that's pretty much all of the fantasy relevant players on bye for you. So you will have to fill in a running back and a tight end. You do have Madison and Brandon Bolden on your bench. Not sure which one of those two you're going to want to fill in there, but you don't have another tight end, so obviously you're going to have to be making a move there. And on Bruce's side, everything seems pretty squared away in terms of buys and everything. Maybe you'll play Laviska Shenault. Probably not. But that's the lineup situation, and I will be picking Bruce for this matchup. I just think, after this week this past week, he's got the players in place to make a solid performance this upcoming week. Moving us on to the final matchup of the week. We've got T-Corn versus Colin. First off, we'll start with Colin. Tom Brady, your quarterback, is on bye, so you'll maybe throw in Sam Darnold. You did pick up AP, so we'll see if you play him. Marquise Hollywood Brown is coming off bye. You do have Antonio, his cousin Brown, on bye, so you won't be playing him. So that's the situation on Colin's side. And then for T-Corn here, it seems like you just got your defense on bye, but you do have the Pittsburgh Steelers defense on your bench, so I'm sure you'll just plug them in. And everything else seems pretty standard for something that you would normally do. So I think this one's not going to be all that close. I think T-Corn's going to get the win here pretty handedly, and so for that reason, T-Corn is my lock pick for this matchup. So that'll do it for this week's upcoming matchups. As I mentioned at the top, I will be not having an episode this next week. So it'll be 2 weeks. I'm sure I'll do a brief overview of this week's matchups, but then obviously cover next week's matchups, then more in depth. Still be sending out that survey, but not a actual episode. So that'll just about do it. So with that, thank you and thank you. Alrighty, we're gonna continue on this streak of calling Adam, as I have yet to land on him. So, Adam, we'll see if we can shotgun this week. Nope, not quite, but maybe soon.